Hey guys, it's Casey. I'm making this video because the month of April is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and I'm going to tell you my story. I've debated on this for a really long time. I do want to warn some people, though, that the story is going to get graphic. It's going to trigger you if you're not careful, so if you think it's going to upset you, please just, scroll on past. So my childhood abuse that I dealt with was physical abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse, and the one I'm going to talk about is sexual abuse. I'm going to talk about sexual abuse because I feel like if I can get maybe my story out, maybe it can help somebody. Maybe it'll help somebody not feel ashamed of what happened to them as a child. So my abuse sexually had started around the time I was 8, and it went on for 5 years. I remember that because it actually stopped when I was 13 when I got my first period. My abuser started out by abusing me by fondling me, fingering me and stuff. And I knew it wasn't right. I knew something wasn't normal about it, but I didn't say anything. And I think that was because of the other abuse I had dealt with as a child. I had fun. People would say, oh, you're making that up, or, oh, I don't believe you, or, oh, well, you probably were asking for it, because that happens, unfortunately, with a lot of people. My abuse escalated from being fingered to my abuser performing oral sex on me. I never really touched my abuser, except for maybe 2 times that I remember. But most of the time it was the fingering, the fondling is what I dealt with. And I knew something wasn't right about it because, I knew, okay, this isn't right, my body shouldn't feel this way, my body shouldn't be shaking, what's going on. But I didn't say anything to anybody because I always think about, how it's going to affect everybody else. And it affected me a lot. I actually ended up getting diagnosed with depression and suicidal ideology when I was in middle school. And that would eventually escalate into, in my 20s, I would actually attempt to take my life because of the abuse. And then I eventually got diagnosed with what's called complex PTSD. And the way complex PTSD works is it basically you go through several traumatic events back to back to back to back to back. And mine kind of stemmed along the lines of the childhood abuse I dealt with, the domestic violence that I had dealt with. I ended up developing this complex PTSD. And my abuse still affects me to this day. There are certain things that, when it comes to sexually, I can't do and I'm uncomfortable doing. I don't like being fondled. I don't like being fingered. I don't like having oral sex performed on me. It's once in a blue moon that, I'll be okay with that. And I think a lot of that has to do with, because it makes me flash back to being abused as a child, and not understanding what was going on, why was my body feeling this way, was I asking for it, did I like this, did I, instigate the situation, and stuff like that. When it comes to my sexual abuse, there is only a handful, and by a handful I mean like maybe 5 people that know that I was sexually abused, and they also know who my abuser was. And, that's something I'll take to my grave. I probably will never be able to fully come out and discuss who my abuser was. And I don't know why, but it's just something I guess I don't have the courage to come up and say something. My abuser isn't, around children anymore, so my abuser's not abusing people anymore. But my childhood, all the different types of abuse did affect me. I don't remember what the psychological term is, but I don't remember a lot of my childhood. People can come up to me and say, hey, remember that one time when you were this old and you did this and this? I won't remember. It's because I blacked all that stuff out, because I have no reason, I guess I feel I have no reason to want to remember my childhood. I have no reason to want to I guess, relive it and then worry about something that's going to trigger me and then cause me to spiral downward. And like I said, with my complex PTSD and my depression and suicidal ideology and all this stuff, you know, I have attempted to take my life. You know, through the grace of God, I'm still here. Do I still kind of wonder what caused, you know, my abuser to pick me? Yeah, I do. My abuser was a male, and some of the ways that has affected me is, you know, if older men show interest in me, I'm usually really quick to shy away from it. I've probably only been dated maybe 3 guys that are older than me. It's traumatic to that point, that it's traumatizing to the point that older men it don't work for me. You know, my husband is actually older than me, but he's about the only exception I make. And the thing is, with sexual abuse, you know, it's hard for us as a child to understand, you know, why is this happening? You know, why is my body doing these things? You know, when this person's doing this stuff to me, you know, and if it doesn't get treated, then yeah, you know, it's going to eventually roll over into, you know, your adulthood, and you're gonna have problems. Really, the only thing I can really tell you guys to do is, if something doesn't seem right and something seems off to you, then say something. You know, if you feel like somebody's paying too much attention to somebody, like a kid, and it doesn't seem right, say something. Now, I'm not saying go out there, you know, and automatically accuse everybody, you know, oh, you know, you're talking to this little girl, or oh, you're talking to this little boy, you know, what's your intention and stuff. Just be alert of your surroundings. You know, and a lot of my time in my childhood, you know, I was always quiet, but I was looking for, you know, who's going to rescue me, who's going to stop this from happening. And nobody did. Like I said, it didn't stop until, you know, I'd gotten my first period, so I guess that would mean my abuser's probably a pedophile. They preferred younger people. You know, like I said, and the reason I have never come forward about abuse is because I worried about, you know, people not believing me, you know, people being like, oh, well, you know, you probably asked for it, oh, you know, you probably did something to cause it to happen and stuff. That's not the case. You know, I wish we could understand why abusers do the things they do, but we don't. I mean, that's just, unfortunately, just the way everything is. And some of the things that still affect me other than sexually is there's certain smells that I can't handle. Like, I will end up having, like, severe anxiety attack. One of them is really weird, and people have looked at me strange, is male pheromones. If I'm around a male and, like, I can smell the pheromones, I end up, like, getting really anxious and getting really upset, and my heart gets really upset. And that's because I remember, you know, smelling that pheromone when I was being abused. And another thing was the dark. I'm 31 years old. I am terrified of the dark. And that's because most of my abuse happened in the dark. So I guess the best thing I could just tell you guys is just be alert. You know, if you see something that seems off, you know, say something to somebody. You know, if a child comes up to you and says, hey, you know, this is happening to me, believe them, you know, because you may be the only person that child may decide to trust and say something to. And if you're like, oh no, I don't believe it, you're making up, then that child may never ever say anything to anybody again, and that could affect the child into, I guess, a worse mentality. You know, maybe going from just being fondled oral sex to maybe having penetration with that person. You know, or it could affect that person to their adulthood of, you know, they, I guess, pick the wrong kind of people to be with. You know, they pick the wrong kind of man that's controlling, that tells them what to do. So guys, honestly, just be alert. I mean, and it happens. I mean, unfortunately, there's more abuse among children sexually, I think, than people realize. Thank you all for your time. Stay strong, keep fighting, pray harder.